Okay, I wanted to make this video because I found out that I do have what they are calling Morgellons. All of this stuff that just pops up, it's got the filaments in it. It's got, basically I have a biofilm. It is a fungus. I'm not finding any, fibers really. Maybe a couple. They look more like clear splinters, and I've really found more in my son's leg, who is 3 years old, and behind his elbows. And I got to really thinking about it. Well, for one, the potassium iodide does work, and it has stopped the things that look like worms. They're not worms, it's a biofilm. And the filaments and the spores or whatever from the fungus. It has stopped all that gooey stuff in my arm, but there were still some in here, but they were like drying out, and when I would pluck them out, they didn't feel all squishy like a worm anymore. It got to a point with the potassium iodide that it actually just felt like a piece of skin, and they were getting hard versus soft. So just in a week and a half on the potassium iodide, it did that. So I just got my second batch of the potassium iodide, which should last me a lot longer than a week and a half this time. Anyhow, but this is something that has to be treated internally. These fibers are not nanofibers, they're not alien fibers or anything like that. This is a fungus from the inside. It grows out of your hair follicles, your pores, and everything else. You're basically like a walking mushroom. I mean, you have a fungus that's on the inside, so you have to treat it from the inside, and you can use ringworm cream, athlete's foot cream. And that doesn't mean that it's athlete's foot or ringworm, but the fungus cream will help the hot spots on the skin. So you will get the tingly, crawling sensations, which I thought was scabies for a long time, and I find out now that it's been from the fungus all along. So anyway, I'm not going to go into that. I just am glad that the other has probably been long gone. I just didn't think it was because I didn't know about the fungus. I thought all the spots on my legs and everything else, I thought all of that was from scabies, and it's not. It turns out it is actually not. It's all from this fungus. You're finding fibers in you if you have Morgellons, because when you find mold on bread or mold on the ceiling that's been there for a while, or when you see mold, what do you find on top of it most of the time? Fuzz. So that's what we have growing out of our skin. That's what you're finding inside of your lesions. That's why these lesions pop up, because it's this stuff trying to grow out of your skin, and you have to get rid of it, and you have to treat it internally with the potassium iodide. I'm not even trying to use the itraconazole or anything else. I am only using colloidal silver, 10 parts per million, 1 teaspoon 3 times a day. For my son, half a teaspoon 3 times a day, because he's 3. A very, very, very good probiotic. I think it's called Fortify brand. And I put a little bit in his juice and the colloidal silver in his juice, and then I'm also putting the drops of the potassium iodide in his juice, but I'm starting out very slow. You can hear him coughing. We've both had a cough. Mine is productive with mucus. Otherwise he can't get his out, on the other hand. So I'm going to say some things wrong because I am driving, and I shouldn't be doing this while driving, but I don't have a lot of time to make this video. And where I live, I cannot use my phone, so I can't go to the doctor. They're not going to properly diagnose this. I don't know if this is contagious. I don't think it's contagious. We had some black mold in the apartment that we lived in about a year and a half ago now, I guess. The black mold had been there the whole time. Well, after a good 7 months, we're coughing and wheezing and can't hardly breathe. And my doctor told me that I've either got adult onset asthma or there is actually exposure to black mold, and it's more than I think, and not just on the windowsill. Turns out it was more than I thought. It was a lot, enough that we breathed in the spores and it caused us to wheeze and cough for nights on end. They bleached it, they got rid of it, I guess. It started off as patches on my legs and a little bit on my upper body. They went away during the winter, but then all of a sudden scabies pops up. Well, I didn't think that it was gone, but nobody was getting it. I wasn't transmitting it to anyone except for my son. He's been to daycare and hasn't transmitted it to anyone. So apparently we got rid of the scabies a long time ago, but I didn't think we did because this fungus causes those crawling sensations because of the spores and the fibers. So I actually haven't really been feeling anything like I used to. And that's how I knew the scabies was gone. Not to mention there's no burrows or anything like that. The itching is not there like it was. So I'm treating with that. There has been success with it already with me. I've seen tons of testimonies. And I want to put this information out there because this is what I'm doing. I don't recommend that you do this with your kid or even for yourself, because potassium iodide does affect the thyroid like big time. It can affect your heart. If you have any kind of heart or thyroid issues, do not take this potassium iodide without talking to a doctor first. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. If you want to try this and do this on your own, the way that I did, I do have a heart defect, but it's the kind of heart defect where I have a rough spot on my tricuspid valve. So as long as I don't get any infections in my bloodstream that get stuck on my heart valve or whatever, I point here, but I meant to point down here, then I'm good, if that makes sense. So, because I'll end up getting endocarditis, which is a infection of the heart lining. So I want to try to keep this somewhat short, but I do want to put the information out there. You don't have alien fibers. You don't have parasites inside of these lesions. It is a fungus. It is internal. It is a pathogen. You do need to treat internally, and you can treat topically as well with the creams that I mentioned before. Clombotrazole, and there's another one called like Bunified Chloride, something like that. There's 2 different ones, but I've had the best results with the clotrimazole, if I'm saying that right. But you hear him coughing. I think that is because our lungs are trying to expel this fungus. Both of us have been coughing for too long. Normally I do have a longer cough with longer mucus expelling because I do smoke cigarettes, but he doesn't. And normally his cough is gone by now, so I do think it is related to the fungus. So I haven't found any filaments or nodules in him yet. I mean, you can see my face. And yes, I do pick at it, and I do pull it off, and then I do pull the filaments out. So yes, I do mess with it. But the lesions originally do come up on their own. I do not sit with a needle or scalpel and put them on my face. I would never do that. This is as embarrassing as it can be. I've had to wear Band-Aids over my nose. My arms looked good, and then I actually peeled them off, the scabs off today, to see if there was any growth of the, I'm sorry, it's hard to see, but I peeled them off today to see if there was any growth of the filaments coming back, or the jelly-like stuff, and there is. Nowhere near as there was in the beginning, but it's there. So just not taking the potassium iodide for like a week and a half or 2 weeks, it started to come back. So that tells me that it is working, and I'm going to keep taking it. And I think that if I just do the 65 milligrams or micrograms once a day for my son, that should be enough for him. But if not, I'll have to do some more research. But don't follow my advice or what I say. Please do your own research and look into this. But I want more people to know about this, because if it wasn't for the YouTube channel with Charlie, the Unknown Cat is the name of his channel, and I believe God led me to his channel, I never would have known about this, and I never would have ordered this, because I don't order this kind of stuff off the internet. I don't order things. I don't